In today's project, we're going to use Cursor, Supabase, MCP, industry-leading tools and practices that are going to help you stand out. In fact, 40% of startups that have come out of Y Combinator, one of the biggest startup accelerators in the world, they're all using Supabase as their database. And companies like Google, Stripe, Meta, Coinbase, they're all using AI code editors to improve their productivity by 30 to 50%. And I know you were thinking, Maximus, what about the security? How can you be setting up a database with AI? Isn't that dangerous? You are right to be asking those questions. You are right to be skeptical. So in this project, we'll work through the best possible workflows for actually using AI to be safe and productive. Just to quickly show you, this is the app we've been building, and today we're going to add in this like feature here, and we're going to be using Cursor and the Supabase MCP to actually create our own PostgreSQL database in Supabase. This is an incredibly fun project. You can get the entire guide at learn.nextweek.org. I'll leave it in the description below, and you don't have to have any experience. I'm going to explain everything. And make sure you fill in these questions here and add in screenshots, because at the end you get documentation that you can actually post to your own LinkedIn or GitHub or your own project portfolio. If you've been following along the last couple of weeks, you know that we're building the Spotify clone app, and right now there is a front end, but there is no back end. There's no database. If you refresh the page, everything resets, and we're going to fix that. So what I want you to do is open up Cursor first. If you don't have Cursor downloaded, you can head to the Cursor download page here and just follow the instructions as you would normally, but you should see something like this. If you don't, go up to the top, click new window, and then you should get a new window like this. And what we're going to do is clone a repo. So you see this button here. And for those of you that don't know, cloning just means you're making a local copy of the code that lives on GitHub. So you're taking the code that we've written and you're basically downloading the project with every file, folder, commit history so that you can open it, edit it, and run it on your own computer. So what we're going to do is use this URL here. We're going to copy it from the project guide, and then we're going to go into clone repo, paste it in the top, and clone from URL. It's then going to ask you for a location to save things. I'd recommend just saving it onto your desktop to make things easy. And it's going to take a couple seconds, and it will ask you to open the clone repository. All right, so now you're looking at the Next Sound project open in Cursor. And let's take a minute to actually understand what we are looking at. So on the left, you're going to see a file tree, which is basically the structure of your entire project. So there's a couple things. I'll point out a few different files here. So you have SRC. This is the core of your app. So it's where your React code lives, the components, the logic, and everything that powers the front end. You got folders here like public. This is where typically static assets are held, like images or icons, and the main HTML of the app loads from here. Then you got things like package.json, and this is the file that lists all your dependencies your project needs, plus the scripts you can run to start or build your app. Honestly, we could go on and on here, but you kind of get the idea. This is the file structure of your whole project that's going on. Now we know a bit about the project, but how do we actually work within it? And this is where we're going to learn about branches. So we're going to go ahead and go up to the top of our screen, go to terminal, and open up a new terminal here. So when you are building real features in an app, you never want to mess with the main version of the code directly. And this is where branches come in. So I want you to think of a branch as a separate workspace, which is your own copy of the project where you can build, test, and break things without touching the main version. Now, the main branch is your official production-ready code. It's what you deploy to users and you'd show publicly. Now, we're wanting to create a like feature, right? So we want to create a new branch called feature like. Now this is a sandboxed environment, your own isolated environment to build something. If you break something here, main stays untouched. Once your code works though, and it passes reviews, you can merge it back into the main branch when you're happy. Now this becomes super powerful when you're working in teams with other people, and multiple people can work on different branches and collaborate at the same time without breaking the main branch. So let's actually switch into that feature branch so we can start building. I want you to first type in the terminal git fetch -- all. Now this command is asking GitHub for any updates. It's kind of like refreshing your local copy of what exists online. It doesn't change your files, it just makes sure that it's synced with the latest branches. After that, we're going to type in git checkout feature / like. So checkout just basically means switch. and Git is replacing your current files with the feature-like version of the branch. So now we're in the feature-like branch, which you can see in the bottom left of your screen. So this is now your own safe workspace for this tutorial. So this branch already includes a bit of backend setup, so we can skip everything up to that phase and go straight into connecting everything with Supabase. All right, so we've got our branch set up, but before we start coding, let's talk about the 3 core tools or concepts we need to learn before we can actually get into this project. So they are Supabase, MCP, and how security fits into this. Number 1 is Supabase, and before Supabase, you'd have to spend your days setting up a backend, so configuring Postgres, writing APIs, managing users, handling scaling. Supabase is going to give you all of that in one click. So you get a production-ready Postgres database, authentication, storage, and real-time APIs. In this project, Supabase is our database, and we'll also handle authentication later on. It's where all of our user data and likes from the app that we're building are going to get stored. In fact, 40% of startups that are coming out of Y Combinator, one of the biggest accelerators in the world, are using Supabase as their database. So you know you are using something that is actually used in the industry. Now, number 2, we have MCP, or Model Context Protocol. Now, MCP is relatively new, it's developed by Anthropic, and this is the part that most people kind of get confused about. But it's the part that makes modern AI development actually possible. Now, AI tools before MCP, they were able to write code, but they couldn't actually do anything. For instance, if you ask for a new table in your database, the AI would just print out some SQL. Then you would have to copy that, switch tabs, paste it in, run it yourself, and it's going to take a lot of time. Companies try to get around this, and they were building AI tools and hacking together their own integrations, which became messy, inconsistent, and honestly just quite expensive. Now, MCP standardizes that. It defines one way for AI tools to connect to real systems like databases, APIs, or file storage through something called an MCP server. The MCP server sits between the AI and the system. It lists the actions that an AI is allowed to perform and runs those actions safely and returns back structured results. This means that Cursor doesn't just generate code anymore, it can actually execute real operations like creating a table or querying data safely and consistently. And this is very, very important when it comes to using AI. Finally, obviously we have security, and when we connect everything later, your Supabase keys will never live inside Cursor. They're stored on your MCP server, either running locally on your machine or hosted in an environment, and loaded from your environment variables. That's why we'll create something called a .env file later, and the MCP server runs this from when it runs, but Cursor itself can't see inside. It is safer, it is cleaner, and it keeps your credentials isolated. So to get an overall picture, Supabase is going to give us a backend. MCP connects Cursor to it through a secure middle layer, and your credentials stay in your environment where they belong. Now, let's actually go ahead and install the connection. All right, so next we have installing the Supabase MCP, and we're going to do this so that Cursor can actually talk to our database. So what we're going to do is go up to the top right-hand corner here where it says Settings. We're then going to navigate to Tools and MCPs, and it should be empty here. We're going to go ahead and go back to the project guide here, and we're going to use this direct link to install Supabase MCP server. It should look something like this, and we can go ahead and click install. It needs authentication, so we can go connect and then open this up. Now, you may not see something like this. You may just see a sign up screen. Now, if you do see a sign up screen, just make sure you go ahead and sign up as normal. You can create a free account, and you can also just use your own name as an organization. And once you go through with that, then you're going to see this screen right here where you can authorize Cursor. Clicking authorize just gives Cursor permission to create and manage projects only in this org, and only when you approve each action as well. So we can just go ahead and click authorize, open Cursor, and we should return back here. And hopefully we see this right here. Now you're going to see this 29 tools enabled. And what do these actually mean? Basically, these are safe, predefined actions that Cursor is allowed to perform on your behalf. So for example, something like create project creates a new Supabase project, or list tables, checks which tables exist. There's a lot of different actions in here, and each one maps to a specific API call inside of Supabase. And notice Cursor doesn't get access to your full account. It only can run these tools after you explicitly approve them. That's why this workflow is so much safer than just pasting API keys into code. So now that we're actually connected, let's create a database within Supabase. So if you don't have this window open, just click this toggle here in the top right corner, and this is your AI chat composer in Cursor. And we're going to go to the project guide, copy in this prompt and paste it in here. And this prompt is saying, use the Supabase MCP to create a new project and set up a connection between NextSound, so the app that we're creating, and my database. Explain how to create an end file, include the Vite Supabase anon key, Vite Supabase URL, and fetch their values using the Supabase MCP. Keep your answer very concise. We can go ahead and hit enter here. Now you're going to see a few different commands pop up here, things like get cost, confirm cost, and these are basically guardrails. So even though we are using free tier resources, Cursor still double checks with Supabase for potential costs. Like if you are spinning up a paid instance or extra storage, it asks what this action would cost and pauses until you approve. And it just confirms that our cost is 0. So we're all good. Then you can see we have things like create project in here. So that's when Supabase actually provisions your database. So PostgreSQL, APIs, auth, everything is done in that step. And once that's done, Cursor gets a project URL and a get anon key to fetch your connection details. Now, a quick reminder of these two, your get URL just grabs your project's public address, and that is totally safe. And the get anon key is actually your public client key. So this is safe for the front end only because Supabase enforces strict row level security by default, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, but never confuse it with your service role key, which skips all the checks and should never touch your client code. So we're gonna copy these right here, and these are what our app will use to connect to the database, but we need to save them to an env file, which we currently don't have. So in our project tree on the left-hand side here, I want you to click into here, make sure they're not selected into any folder and you're just creating a file like this. Create a new file and we're going to call it a .env. env stands for environment variables, and it's where you store your sensitive credentials like your Supabase URL and your key. Make sure you keep that out of your actual code because that is a common mistake and it's something you don't want to happen. We can paste these 2 lines that Cursor gave us and we can go ahead and hit save. And this file only lives on our computer. It is not shared or uploaded or tracked by Git. And that is because it's listed inside our Git ignore file. So you can see env is just here. And this tells Git to never include this file when pushing it to GitHub. So remember we talked about branches and pushing our work to GitHub. This won't be included so other people can't see this key. And this is because anyone with this key could talk to your database. Even though the anon key is limited, you still don't want to put it inside a public repo. You don't want other people to have that. So instead, your app reads from the variables from the .env file while it runs, and that's how it actually connects securely. And here is a subtle but important difference. Remember earlier when we connected Supabase through the MCP, the setup let Cursor talk to Supabase through a secure server, right? This env file is what your app itself uses, totally separate from the MCP. So the AI and your code is now both securely connected, but in different ways. Make sure you're hitting Command Save or Control Save and saving that file. And now your app knows where your database lives and how to authenticate safely. So now that everything is connected, let's actually go ahead and build something real. Remember, we're gonna add likes features, a heart button for each of the tracks that saves data into Supabase. So I'm actually gonna go into a new chat here. I'm gonna go back to the project guide and just copy in this prompt here, and then we'll paste it into our chat. And this chat is saying, implement a likes feature that adds a heart button on every track card. Every track starts with 0 likes. Set up a Supabase table that stores the number of likes that each track has. The env file already exists in nextsound.env with the URL and the key set. Use the Supabase MCP to read the env values and set up the table. So we can go ahead and press enter here. Now you'll see a few MCP tools running. List projects is just listing all the projects within our Supabase table. It's gonna run our list tables as well. So you can see here, it's checking existing tables. Then it's gonna create a to-do list of the things it's gonna do. And it's actually gonna go ahead and create our table here. So right here, you're watching Cursor actually create the UI for our app, because we don't have a like feature in there at the moment. So it's gonna go ahead and do this. But you see this at the bottom, it says run SQL and it's kind of covered. You wanna click run here. And essentially this execute SQL is inserting the initial data, so setting every track to 0 likes so that the UI has something to display right away. Each of these tool calls is gonna need your permission as you go through, and Cursor is handling all of the front end automatically, adding the heart icons to each track, setting up the click handler, and connecting to the new Supabase table. So now things have obviously been built, but we need to run the app. And there's one thing we actually need to do before that, and that is install the dependencies. So we can go ahead and type in npm install, and we can hit enter. You might see an error like this, and all you need to do is just run npm audit fix, and you should be good to go. Cool. So npm stands for Node Packet Manager, and this command essentially just looks inside that package.json file, finds every dependency that's listed, and then installs them into this folder called Node Modules. This folder is what actually lets your app run. So now we can see the app actually running, so we can go npm run dev. This starts a Vite development server, it compiles your code and watches for file changes, and then it launches the app locally. So you'll see something like this. We can just go ahead and click into here, press command enter, or command click, sorry, and go into it. So here's our actual app, and if we scroll down, you can see we have the heart icons here, but I mean, we click them, they do show the one, they look pretty good, but honestly, I want this heart outline to be white. So I can go to cursor, I can open up a new chat, and I'm just gonna say in plain English, I want the white outlines, or the outlines of the hearts, to be white for the light counters in the card tiles. I can go ahead, hit enter here, and it's gonna go ahead and begin to make those changes, and they should be pretty quick, hopefully. Let's see it do it live. Come on, cursor. All right, I didn't make the change, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and take a screenshot of this. I'm just gonna copy paste it into the chat modal there. And I'm just gonna say, this icon of the heart should be outlined in white, even when someone hasn't liked anything. Now let's see what it's doing. Compose is pretty quick, so surely it makes this change. Okay, so that is looking a bit better. We can go ahead and click in here, and you're gonna see that things are actually getting liked. And then when I don't like it anymore, it goes back to 0, which is exactly what we want. This is working well. But we need to check this within Supabase. So I'm just gonna go to the project guide and click into here. And you're gonna have, you potentially only will have one project. I've done this before, but I created a new one here, and I'm gonna go into next sound. Now in the top left-hand corner here, you can go to this table editor part here, and let's click into here, and hopefully we should have a table called track likes in here. And this will have our track ID as well as our like counts. So basically what's happening here is the user clicks the heart. So that's us clicking the heart in the app. And the browser is gonna send a request with our anonymous key. From there, Supabase is gonna receive it. It's gonna update this table here, so update track likes, and then Supabase is gonna respond. New like has been counted and returned. And then our UI updates automatically. So that entire loop is happening in a few hundred milliseconds, and you're interacting with a real backend, not just a demo anymore. So that's how the front end and the back end connect through MCP. And Cursor handled the schema, Supabase handles the storage, and your browser handles the interaction. If you're having issues with this, there's a few things you can do in the project guide here to check things out. But let's open up a new chat. And one thing I want to show you in here is that you can actually query your database from Cursor. So I could say something like, what tracks are currently liked in next sound, use Supabase MCP, paste that in and hit enter. And now it should run these commands here. And we can see that there's actually 3 tracks in here that are liked. Now, if you're wondering how to get the song names, we can actually just ask Cursor to do that as well. Make sure to check. You can paste in this little query here, and we can say, please match the track IDs to the song names, and hit enter. This is in the project guide in case you were wondering. And now you can see here, Die With a Smile, Cruel Summer, and As It Was by Harry Styles. They're all liked. And if we go back to our project here, you can see that is correct. I'm gonna like Sabrina Carpenter too, because if she's watching, I like you, Sabrina. Another cool thing we can do is we could say, update the amount of likes for the song Espresso to be 20. So we can also change our database through Cursor as well. We can add in queries like this, and it's gonna execute some SQL and go ahead and make those changes to our database. So now you can see in the chat here, Espresso 20 likes. So now if we go back to our UI, you can see that Espresso has 20 likes because everyone likes Sabrina. So now our like feature works, but if we're being realistic and this was a real app, if one person clicks a like, it shouldn't change for everyone's UI. That is not how real apps work. Like in real systems, likes belong to a user, and that means we need authentication. So we're gonna use Supabase's built-in auth system for this, and it gives you sign up, sign in, password reset, session management out of the box, powered by PostgreSQL. So when someone signs in, Supabase creates a session token, and that token is sent along with every database request. Supabase verifies that token before returning any data, so each user only sees what they're allowed to see. So let's go back to the project guide here. I'm going to copy in this prompt here, start up a new chat window, because that's best practice if you're doing something new. And I'm going to add in this prompt here. So it says, set up the likes feature with Supabase Authentication. Note the existing UI components for sign in, sign up, and add them into the header. Use the Supabase MCP, create a user profiles table and a user track likes table to link users to their like tracks. Set up row level security policies so that users can only see and modify their own likes. And the end file with URL and the key already exists. So let's go ahead and run these here. Now Cursor is going to do its thing as it always does. Now as Cursor is doing its thing, let's talk about row level security, or RLS. RLS means Supabase checks every query against a policy before returning data. So even if someone tried to query the database directly, they'd only see rows that belong to them. For example, a policy might say only return rows where user ID equals auth ID. That's how we make sure each user only reads or updates their own data. Now, Cursor has just finished up here, but we need to actually go ahead and restart our dev server. So we're going to go ahead and press Control C, and in here, we're going to restart our server, and we can run npm run dev again. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to reload our environment variables and make sure any new dependencies or config changes are picked up correctly. So we can go back to our website, and now in the top here, you actually see the sign in, sign up button, which we didn't have before, and all of our likes have been reset. So now if we go to sign up here, we actually need to create a new account. I'm going to create an account like this, go sign up, and it's going to send us an email to confirm our account. And you can go ahead and confirm your mail. So now you can see on our app here, I can go down to the bottom here and I'm actually logged in, and you can see that in the top right hand corner. But I'm gonna go ahead and like all of these songs here. And if I refresh, you're gonna find that I have my likes over here, which is exactly what I want. When we can go into the Next Sound database here, and you actually will find a couple other tables here, user profiles and user track likes. Now user profiles is just gonna show us the user that is authenticated. So in this case, it is me. And the user track likes will show you that I've liked 6 different songs here. And all this is doing is matching our ID to our user ID. And then it'll show us our track ID. And in case you're wanting to check who is authenticated, you can go into this authentication tab here and just double check that Maximus at nextwork.org is authenticated. Now, same as before, I can go into Cursor here and I could actually just put in something like, who are my users? Use the Supabase MCP, and Supabase should be able to query my users. So you can see here, Maximus at nextwork.org is the user right here, which is exactly correct. We could also ask something like, which tracks has my users liked? Show me the track names, and hopefully it should be able to do this as well. By the way, if you don't want to run every single command individually, you can set up run everything. I'd suggest actually for your first time and until you really understand what is going on, just run it every time, and it'll make you actually look at what is going on. And here you can see that I have liked 6 songs, and this is exactly right as well. So things are working perfectly. And that wraps up the entire project for today. Make sure at the end you're completing your documentation on the website, and you can post it to LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram. You can even save it as a README or save it to GitHub, whatever you like. You can do it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this project. Are you using MCPs? Are you using Supabase? Have you been using Cursor? What do you think about this project? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.